Well, it's that time of year. My top 10 horror movies of 2024. Man, I can't lie. This was really hard. And yeah, once again, this is your yearly reminder that, that movie that you really, really loved this year will probably be left off of my list, either because I just haven't seen the movie, or it might be on my list of number 20 through number 11 of my favorite horror movies of the year, or because, that whole thing about this being my favorite horror movies of the year and not yours. With that said, all right, coming in at number 10 is going to be Nosferatu. Yes, guys, I've sat on it, and Nosferatu, despite its flaws, does deserve to be on my top 10 list for the year. With this movie, I love the fact that we're not stuck in one location. We're going back and forth between the different characters. We're in a dark, very unforgiving place, and then we're back with some other characters. It's daytime. They're doing other things. Sometimes in this subgenre, we're just stuck in like this dark castle for 90 minutes straight. So I love the fact in this movie, I enjoy that we get to kind of switch between different locations and kind of a little bit of a different tone. And Lily Rose Depp kind of feels like the perfect casting for that role. And I know that kind of sounds weird to say, because if somebody else was in her shoes and they killed it in the role and were great in this movie, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. But that is always a good sign, in my opinion. It's kind of like her dad in Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, could you imagine anyone else playing that character other than Johnny Depp? And yeah, somebody else I'm sure could pull it off, but that's when you know that person did a great job in that role, when you just couldn't imagine anyone else doing it. So yes, despite the fact that Bill Skarsgård's version of Orlok kind of looks like Hulk Hogan if he was casted to play a role in The Machinist, but man, Nosferatu is just so damn atmospheric. And this world, man, Robert Eggers did a great job creating this 1830s time period for this type of a movie. All right, coming in at number 9 is going to be The First Omen, the prequel to The Omen from 1976. And yeah, Nell Tiger-Free in this movie is great. She's relatable, and I like that they made her character question things. That's something that I liked. I thought that was, like I said, very relatable, and she's one of the more believable kind of headlining soon-to-be nuns that I can think of in recent memory. Now, to me, this religious horror nun stuff is just way overplayed at this point. But what's interesting about this movie is there's something about it that just feels different. And I think this movie just works way better if you go into it completely blind. But just this idea of this conspiracy to basically bring the Antichrist to Earth, I'm here for it. But this movie's got some crazy visuals. Some stuff is pretty, well, there's really no other way to put it other than it's pretty fucked up. But yeah, in my opinion, The First Omen is definitely one of the best horror movies of the year. Okay, coming in at number 8 is going to be Longlegs. And Nick Cage in this movie is just genuinely horrifying. Micah Monroe is also very good in this movie. And yeah, Longlegs is clearly inspired by a movie like Seven, with just the bleakness and the eeriness with the movie, kind of that true crime, murder mystery kind of a deal as well. It's also got some really cool wide angle shots that are clearly put there to just make you feel off and eerie, which I thought really worked for me. But yeah, I love this style of this dark crime thriller horror movie that's brutal, but also makes you think at the same time. Plus, to me, I thought Longlegs was the scariest movie I saw the entire year. But yeah, there you go. Longlegs coming in at number 8. Okay, up next at number 7 is going to be The Substance. And yes, Demi Moore, definitely a woman that I had a crush on in the 90s, but she's kind of perfect for this role, especially when you take into account the themes going on with this whole thing. And Margaret Qualley also is great in this, as kind of her yin to her yang. And man, The Substance, so much body horror, so much. The effects are juicy, and some of the stuff in this movie, I swear I have never seen before. One thing that's kind of weird about The Substance to me is there's a lot of things in this movie I feel like I've never seen before. Super unique, very fresh. But also on the other hand, there's other things in this movie that I feel like are just blatantly ripped off of movies before it. The Substance has got to be that movie that's nominated for the most awards, while at the same time having the most people walk out of the movie. I mean, so many people walked out of this movie, especially towards the end of the movie in my theater, which us horror fans, we kind of love that. It's like a badge of honor. We sit back laughing at you like, haha, waving the white flag, huh? And one thing without a doubt I can say about this movie is it made me feel something, and a lot of the themes and the visuals and other things in this movie lingered with me for a long time. I thought about it, and like I said, man, I mean, a movie that makes you feel physically exhausted and also makes you think, I mean, something's got to be said about that. So there you go. The Substance coming in at number 7. All right, up next at number 6 is going to be Heretic. Now, obviously, growing up Mormon like I did, this movie is going to kind of affect me and kind of hit me a little bit different than some other people. Now, this movie is packed full of metaphors and symbolisms, which you would think would be kind of confusing and make the movie maybe worse to the average audience. But to me, I felt like it was pretty easy to digest. Even one of the biggest twists in the story that they do kind of reveal in the trailer has another twist to it, which I thought was great. And I think this movie just really makes you think that, okay, these things that I believe, do I believe them just because somebody else asked me to believe them? Now, the missionaries are great in this movie. I think it also helps that I believe they were former Mormons, so obviously that would help with the role as well. But can we please get Hugh Grant casted immediately in more horror roles? Please, right away, because he absolutely carries this movie. Obviously, a legendary actor in a lot of different genres and has done a ton of things in movies, but it was awesome seeing him in a horror movie, and he is damn good in this. But I mean, Heretic, I think it was just a fun ride that made you think, had so many cool themes and symbolisms and other stuff going on. And yeah, one of the best horror movies of the year. All right, moving into the top 5. Up next at number 5 is going to be Strange Darling. And this movie has so many twists and turns. Not only that, but Kyle Gallner and Willa Fitzgerald in this movie, I mean, they just carry it. I mean, they are the people in this movie. It's about their interactions, and there's so many moments where, I mean, most of the movie is just them too, and how they navigate their different personalities and also their motives and their backstory and what's going on in their life, their vices, and what's kind of their goal in this whole situation. And it's crazy. I think both of them, when I say killed it, I mean, dude, absolutely did in this movie. And also, this movie pulls the rug out from under you so many times throughout the movie, but in a good way, not in a bad way, which I thought was very effective. It's also gory as hell towards the end, has so many twists and turns at the end of the movie. Plus, I mean, this movie was made for $4 million, which is pretty damn impressive, and it just shows you, like, if you get two great actors with good chemistry together, with an interesting story, with some twists and turns and things like that, you don't need a huge budget to make a movie that can have an impact. So yeah, there you go. Strange Darling, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Coming in at number 5. Okay, coming in at number 4 for me is going to be Terrifier 3. So on the heels of Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3 had something like 10 times the budget of Terrifier 2. So for me, going into it was one of my most anticipated horror movies of the year. I was expecting and hoping for just a better story, some answers that we didn't get in Terrifier 2, which we do get. We get some answers. And really, though, like the whole production with Terrifier 3, I was happy to say and was very satisfied in the fact of everything is just better in this movie. From just the very introduction, the first part of the movie, I'm like, damn, this is easily the best shot sequence in the franchise. It's a Christmas slasher. The Christmas tropes are on point. Art is great once again, playing into those tropes with funny moments, using the Christmas stuff against Santa, the Santa at the mall, all the other things with Christmas that we know and love, and using that with Art's brutality. Plus, one of the biggest things that I wanted in Terrifier 3 was I wanted better kills, more creative kills compared to Terrifier 2, which was, the kills in that movie were kind of just drawn out for like shock value. And of course, Terrifier 3, the shock value is still there, but the kills in Terrifier 3 are the best in the franchise by a mile. Now, the end of Terrifier 3 definitely has some moments that don't really make much sense to me, but this movie's gonna make you laugh. This movie's gonna make you say, wow, that just happened. It's cold, it's Christmassy, and all this crazy Art the Clown brutality and madness is all going down typically in your head, and even at the end of the movie, to stuff like The Sounds of Silent Night, the classic song, right? So yeah, Terrifier 3, just a bloody, funny, great slasher movie that definitely hit some of the marks that I was really hoping that it would coming into the year. So yeah, Terrifier 3 at number 4. All right, now moving into the top 3, up next at number 3 is going to be Oddity, which is a movie that definitely shares a lot of similarities, in my opinion, with a movie like Longlegs. And now this movie, I would say, is definitely a slower movie. And a lot of times when a movie's slow, we go, oh, it's a slow burn, or oh, no, it's just taking its time to build the atmosphere. But what's weird about this movie is saying that makes sense, because even though it's technically a slower movie, in my opinion, it works and I'm not bored. And I think a lot of that just has to do with this is a simple premise. But when you mix in the acting and how the movie is shot, along with the setting of these different scenes, it just keeps me locked in. And yeah, like I said, damn, man, in this movie, the acting really is great and just shows you how much talent there is out there with just great actors all over the place. If you have a production that knows where to find these people. I love it when there's a movie and it's nobody that I recognize, but the acting is so on point. Now, also, what's cool about Oddity is the ending of the movie has a lot of things that are very definitive, but it also has some other things that are very ambiguous, which was kind of a cool little blend. Plus, just the overall story of Oddity that we learned towards the end of the movie is very sinister. All this stuff involving this hospital, it's things that I think to myself like, oh, damn, that could actually happen, which is not good. Now, every year in horror, we always have movies that I feel like punch way above their weight and just work. Last year, it was a movie like When Evil Lurks. And this year, to me, it's definitely Oddity. Okay, coming in at number 2 as my second favorite horror movie of 2024 is going to be a movie where, is it technically the best movie with the best story, shot the best? No, I wouldn't say so. But it's a movie that when I thought about making this list, I sat down and I'm kind of like, okay, what movies not only do I want to rewatch as the years go on, but when it came out, I wanted to immediately rewatch as well. And one of those movies has got to be Maxine, which is a movie I saw multiple times in the theater. And yes, like I said, is a movie that is very flawed, but I just thought was a damn good time. I love what Ty West did with his 80s aesthetic in this movie. It's not all bright lights and colorful, glamorous things with the 80s. No, he kind of navigated this darker underbelly to the 80s in Los Angeles and just in a city just in general. He shows some of the glamorous stuff, but he also shows some of the sketchy stuff as well. And yeah, one of the biggest things that works about Maxine for me is Mia Goth. I mean, I love Mia Goth in not only X, but also Pearl as well. And she's great in this. Kevin Bacon is also great in this as kind of the person that she has to kind of battle with here and there. And really also, and I've talked about this with X, I've talked about this with Pearl, but with Ty West, for me, when I watch his movies, I can just notice his passion, not only for movie making, but for the horror genre just in general. It feels like every frame is intentional, it's well thought out, and has really a reason behind it. Now, with that said, one gripe that I do have with Maxine is I really do wish they would have leaned a little bit more into the slasher element of the movie instead of the 80s buddy cop kind of a vibe. But I get what Ty West was going for. But it's one of those movies, especially with the music, the Hollywood studio sets, us getting to see some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood, the vibes of the movie, the look of Mia Goth's character, Kevin Bacon's character. Like I said, when I made this list, I just had to sit down and say, man, I could not resist not having Maxine at least in my top 3, because out of all the horror movies that I saw this year, I just had to think to myself, which movies did I have the most fun with? And yeah, Maxine, definitely number 2 on the year for me. All right, now coming in at number 1 as my favorite horror movie of 2024, again, is a movie that is very flawed. But this movie has the most rewatchability of any horror movie that I saw this year, which is why I saw this movie the most that I've seen any movie in theaters this year, which is going to be Alien Romulus. And one thing that comes to mind right away with Alien Romulus for me that I enjoyed was one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this movie is just this world being transported into this unforgiving, gritty mining colony world. We're on these ships that have vibes of like the original Alien. Like I said, the grit and the grime. If I don't take away anything else from this movie, it's the fact of just being transported into this movie for a couple hours. I'm sitting back in my chair like, I want to be here longer. I want more movies just to experience this world because it looks so damn cool. It's gritty, it's grimy, and I want to learn more about it. And yes, I hear you guys yelling at your screen, the blatant recycled content in this movie, the lines, the iconic lines stolen from other Alien movies before it, even the inexperienced cast that's young and probably only there because they're kind of cheaper. I know that stuff is not a good look for the movie. That's not something I enjoyed with the movie at all. But when I think about this movie and I sit down and I made this list, this is just the horror movie that I had the most fun with. Like I said, is Alien Romulus the movie with the most interesting, unique, creative story out of all of the horror movies this year? Did it have the best kills? Was it the most gruesome? Was it the most shocking horror movie of the year? No, but like I already mentioned, when it comes to Alien Romulus, man, it just has the most rewatchability for me personally out of any horror movie in 2024. But there you go. That is my list of my 10 favorite horror movies of 2024. Again, though, this is part 2. I have my list of 20 through 11 as well, so go ahead and check out that video. Also, if you want to see the rest of my favorite horror movies of 2024. But thanks so much, everybody, for the support throughout this entire year. I launched this channel about a year and a half ago, and yeah, I mean, like 95% of the subscribers, have all happened this year, which has been an incredible year. So much support. Just the fact that you make something, you put some hard work into something, and some people out there enjoy it is really damn rewarding and really cool. Also, let me know down below what your 10 favorite horror movies of 2024 are. I'll go ahead and link some videos right here if you want some more content from me right now. But again, everybody, thanks so much for an incredible 2024 here on the channel. I really appreciate it. It's been a crazy year, just full of some amazing moments. So thanks so much for being a big part of that. But anyways, everybody, if you're new here, my name is Matt. Nice to meet you, and I will talk to you in the next one.